Welcome in again, everybody, to the Auburn Undercover Podcast. Today's edition of Coach's Corner with Ellis Johnson. Ellis, how you doing?
Good to be on. Doing okay. About to freeze to death over here.
Yeah, I've got the same issue here.
Sunny South Carolina, 20-something degrees. People go crazy over here.
I had 4 dogs in the bed with me last night, so they kept everybody warm. What were your thoughts on the game Saturday?
I don't know, just kind of disappointing. I thought a lot of kids kind of, tried to play hard. As it unfolded, it was sort of uncharacteristic for Auburn's character. Auburn's, I guess you'd say, their character this year, been living off of defense, and it just reached a point in the game where they couldn't stop Vandy. And offensively, though, they had a pretty good outing, and hopefully for the future, maybe it's a good change of quarterback. Maybe they found some consistency. I thought he made some of the kind of plays that Arnold makes, but he didn't bring along the screw-ups, taking sacks at the wrong time, putting the ball on the ground, throwing it in the wrong hands, all these type of things. But, when I was watching it earlier, I thought it made just like me. I almost cut the game off. It seemed like they had it under control, and then I flipped back over in the second half, and they're having a hard time getting them off the field. Yeah. You can't help but think that probably, having to take that thing on as the interim on top of still coordinating the defense, there's at least a few distractions during the course of a game. There has to be, where you can't stay focused on when somebody gets momentum on the other side of the ball, especially on offense. If you're a coordinator, you need to have a feel for it and know how to shut it off. Now, they might beat you with something else, but you got to get the water cut off. And it just didn't seem like they could ever kind of catch up with Vandy's momentum. And I know a lot of the stats came on overtimes, but they had huge stats before they even went into overtime. And I think they said they had a record in yards and points before they even started the overtime.
And Pavia finished his career 3-0 against Auburn.
Yeah. Well, they ain't got anything to be ashamed about that particular point. But, we spent a lot of time on Pavia on a podcast yesterday. And I would say it was unanimous. There's 4 of us on there. And we all think he ought to have the Heisman Trophy this year. And it was one statement made in there that there is no player in America that means as much to their team as he does. That's for sure. And hell, I think he's a Heisman winner. But when he walks out of there, I hope it doesn't go completely flat, but I think it's going to be like like a balloon getting stuck with a needle. All the air at Vandy's going to come out for a while.
You don't think Jerry Kill is you think it's more Pavia than Kill?
I do. I think Kill deserves a lot of credit. He's probably one of the best head football coaches in the last 30 years. Mm-hmm. But I just think that kid's a key. Now, if they can find another one like him, and it's not his physical talents, although he has some. It's just he's a winner. He plays with pressure, under pressure, and the way he makes decisions and how quick he thinks and reacts and that type of thing. You just tell he's different, man.
Yeah, he does. And switching to, we mentioned Durkin and the defense, switching to coaching search. I sent you this. I want to get your reaction to this quote. It's from John Cohen on a story on Auburn Undercover this morning. By the way, for those listening, there's a subscription special, 60% off. But this is a quote from the Auburn AD on what he's looking for in Auburn's next head coach. It has to be a person that fits Auburn's needs. Our need is for somebody who has an edge. The reason I say that is so many of our players. I spoke to one this afternoon, and I'm going to speak to more over the course of the week because we have an open week. They talk about wanting to be coached hard. They want to be treated fairly, but they want to be coached hard. They want a leader who is going to have an edge and has a very high expectation all the time. That is priority number one. We've said on this show before, Auburn didn't have an edge prior to.
Yeah, I couldn't quite figure their personality. I mean, but I don't know. In one point in there, he says he's talked to one player. Then later on in the statement, it's like he knows what all of the players think. So, I mean, which is it? The second thing is, I mean, who doesn't want that? Just kind of, but underneath that is the kid saying, we just didn't feel like it was demanding enough?
That was my
I don't
impression.
know. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can read into it, but as far as a coaching search, I think I'd be looking for the edge and about 50 other things on top of it. So, and I think it is important that you talk to the players, get the temperature in the room, see what they think. I think that gives you a really good perspective of what's going on in that locker room. So, if it does come through numerous players, we feel like, we had good coaches and that we knew what we were doing and all that, but we just didn't feel like it was quite demanding enough and that we had the attitude and the edge that we needed, and it develops in practice.
Well, I mean, there was clearly something missing, the previous 2.5 years. I don't know. And look, the first 2 years, talent gap was clearly there, but they lost a bunch of close games and just kind of, and the talent level's much better this year. And it kind of looked the same, if not worse, offensively.
Yeah. Hard to disagree with that. It's to his credit, he changed the roster, but to his discredit, where's the production? And Ronnie, I think a lot of it goes back to the quarterback things. We talked about specifically what was going on this year, not taking care of the football in really critical times, getting in the red zone, taking sacks, getting back out of field goal range, ball security, some things like that. And it's kind of now that he was like the third choice in the portal, and they kept fighting and fighting to try to find one, and it didn't get what they wanted. I even heard that they had first went after Norris Sellers from South Carolina. I don't know if that's true or not. But, and then it looks like at the very end that Daniels performed better. And that's, that happens sometime when you gauge them on practice or on evaluating when they played for somebody else. You make the best educated decision you can. Some kids are different when you get in the game. And there's those 15 or 20 snap decisions that you got to make. Maybe it's an option read. Maybe it's whether to throw a ball on a certain route. Whatever it is, whether it's pull the ball down, run with it. Little things like protecting the football when you decided you're going to tuck it and run. But he seemed to be doing a lot better than what the production's been the previous 8 weeks or 7 weeks. So just a lot of things, I think, not all the problems, but a lot of the things gravitate back to the quarterback position. And it was not just this year, even previous 2 seasons. The quarterback would make some decisions and some errors during the course of the game that put everybody else in hot water.
Well, and Ashton Daniels he's played a lot of football. I mean, I think he started 30 games, I want to say, at Stanford. So, I mean, he's been around. He knows how to, he even though he may not be as physically talented as Jackson Arnold, he was certainly more productive, and he got the ball out of his hands. It looked like to me that he wasn't sitting back there thinking about it. He Derek did a great job. Derek Nix did a great job, I thought, putting the game together. Now, what does it look like in 3 weeks against Alabama? Who knows? And they'll probably have a little bit better beat on him than Vandy did after not knowing what to expect. But I was pretty impressed with Derek Nix's game plan.
Yep, it must have been. I mean, and it wasn't a call by committee. No. It appeared that he was calling it. Whether they all put it together or not, it looked to me like he was calling it. And their production was good too, even before the overtime stats. Yeah. They had good production, not a single turnover the whole game, and balanced attack. So, yeah, you got to tip a hat to him. It could be maybe that was one of the problems this season. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Who knows?
It just sounded like that Freeze was not as involved in the game planning during the week as maybe he should have been, but he wanted to come in on Saturdays and call the game. And it was just, it didn't even look like to me there was a plan. It looked like maybe he was just out there calling plays at times.
We never know. We'll never know if we weren't on the inside, but it didn't look connected and, glued together like it did Saturday.
How are we looking at the rest of the conference? We got some games this weekend. We can do some picks and then
Yeah, it's coming down. I mean, there's still some games that are going to determine whether who's going to get into playoff for the conference and who's going to possibly get into playoff nationally. And there's some really important games each week. There are less important games with matchups, but the ones that are left are going to be really critical. You've got Oklahoma going to Alabama. I wouldn't be shocked at an upset there at all. Alabama ran the ball for 50-something yards last week. 50-something yards. They better find some more yardage in the running game, because if they try to throw the ball that often against Oklahoma, I don't think it'll be as good a results as they've had in other games. I be honest with you, I had picked this Florida at Ole Miss, a couple of weeks ago. I'd have said that might be the one that Ole Miss finally gets caught not playing their best, and they got enough athletes on that Florida team. But then when I see what happened at Kentucky Saturday, I mean, it looks like the kids maybe have just kind of given in. Maybe there's portal tampering. Maybe half of them don't think they're going to be there next year. I mean, you don't know. Sometimes when you have that immediate coaching change, and I give DJ a lot of credit for Auburn's situation. Those kids look like they came to play. But Florida, I mean, I don't know. Kentucky's not a really good Kentucky team. I mean, they're tough and play hard, but this is not one of his best teams. And man, it was embarrassing up at 45. Scored 7 points, 38-7. So now I don't have any confidence that Florida can go to Ole Miss and upset them. I mean, who knows? But they might. And Lagway has kind of gone backwards the last 2 or 3 weeks. Texas at Georgia is probably the biggest one. And I see what that thing, the one I looked at real quickly was a 5.5 point spread.
It's up to 6.5 now. And Alabama, Oklahoma, they're both at 6.5.
I just, when I try to project who's going to make it, I just can't. Every time I start thinking about some of the things that some of these teams do real well, I always come back to Georgia, because they've won in different situations by different methods. And Stockton's throwing the ball better now, especially vertically down the field. And that was kind of about all I thought they were missing. And I mean, I'll tell you, they just know how to win. They've got a little bit of a mental toughness about them that I'm not sure any of the other 5 or 6 that have got a shot at it may not be able to match them. So if they just don't get out athleted in some matchup, skill guys or something like that, where somebody gets some cheap points. I mean, Alabama right now, I will tell you 5 weeks ago, they were the most complete team. Yeah. But, I mean, the other day, all they can do is make chunk plays on 3rd down, which that's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with making chunk plays. But if you got to live by them and you don't have a running game, I mean, 50 yards in the running game is not going to be enough. And LSU, good defense, but that just that really stood out to me. So any of the other matchups to me are meaningless as far as the finish. Texas A&M better be careful. South Carolina's got a team that can upset you if you're not ready to play, and their record doesn't indicate it, but they've got dangerous players.
Looking at the standings here, I mean, you've got in the conference, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, got nine teams in the conference that are ranked, and really probably you got 2 that are undefeated in Alabama and A&M in the conference. Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas with 1 loss, and then Vandy and Oklahoma with 2. How's this thing going to play out?
I don't know. The ones you named, they all mathematically have a path. Oklahoma, in my opinion, has a schedule that's going to be the most difficult, but that gives them the most chances to make a statement. Because some of the guys right now, like Ole Miss right now, they've got Florida, who's now unranked. They got an open date. And then they got to go to Mississippi State, and they're probably a double-digit favorite over there. That doesn't give them a whole lot of games to make a statement, other than flub one of them up and you make a statement, you're out.
Right.
You look at these other teams, and they've got somebody left to play, a couple of teams left to play, and if you beat them, it's going to help your resume. So trying to predict who's going to win out, I wouldn't have any idea. But I do think, to me, I keep going back to Georgia, and right now A&M's probably playing the best. They seem to be hitting it, right at the right time. I've still got a little bit of concern. I know he's played well the last 3 weeks, but Reed has limitations, quarterback. And I just don't think they're going to, have a hard time running the table through the last 2 games, go to Texas for finish up, then have to play a playoff game in the SEC probably, then hit it and have to play 2 more games. They're kind of in playoff mode now. And so all these guys are really. And the ones that have 2 losses, they're definitely, they're like, they might as well be in the brackets already. The way they approach every game, got to win or you're out. So it's really interesting. We were on that other pod. I mean, I agree with, had an analytics guy on there, and he said, the toughness of the conference is the parity, not the dominance. And I have to agree with him. There are no bullies in the SEC this year. Every one of them have a weak spot somewhere in their team that keeps them from being a dominant, surefire, favorite to go through the playoffs undefeated. But I question that a little bit in other conferences too. And Ohio State, for example, I don't know if they can beat Michigan at Michigan. And when they go up there in 3 weeks, they will have not played a really good football team in about 8 to 9 weeks. So they're still playing in every facet of the game. They're playing better than anybody in the country. So I don't know if they're a bully. I think they're just playing on an average schedule, but playing their best football.
Yeah, and I mean, looking down, I think, the depth of the conference in the Southeastern Conference is just, you've got 9 teams ranked, and among those who aren't ranked are LSU, Florida, and Auburn. I mean,
right. That's crazy.
It's pretty strong. Alabama, you look at their schedule, and you got Oklahoma this weekend. Now they're sitting pretty, and DeBoer's got to be feeling pretty good. What happens if you're Alabama and you go drop Oklahoma at home and then go to Auburn and get beat?
Well, that'd be start a riot. I just don't know. Oklahoma, they better be careful with Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the one that's more, other than the fact they got them at home. But, they were at home against LSU, right? Yeah. And they rushed for 50 yards. Now, you win the ball game. I get that. But you got to have some balance, and you got to have some run game, an effective throwing game. You got to have a good special teams, not be putting yourself in bad position. And you got to have a great defense. Now, their defense has gotten better over the last 3 or 4 weeks. They sometimes play some dominant type stuff, but they don't have the kind of guys up front that they did in Saban's years. Georgia doesn't have that kind of front this year or last year. You can't do it anymore, I guess, with the portal. And so it's just nobody is just dominant in more ways than other teams. And it kind of comes down to some of these matchups. But they have got to get better running the football, and they don't have a quarterback that can be the running back on the day when you're taking the running back away. I mean, he's nifty, but he's not Narcellis. So,
well, looking at their stats from Saturday, 56 yards rushing, and 8 of them came from the quarterback. You had, looks like Hill had 7 carries, Miller had 8 carries, quarterback had 4 carries, and they had 21 yards, 13 yards, 8 yards, respectively. That's
no, not good at all. And I think Oklahoma has a better front than LSU does. Now it may be statistically, and they gamble a lot. Well, I don't say gamble, but they're very aggressive in their approach. And LSU is a little bit more of read, react, I guess you'd say. So I'm not going to say that they're more talented than LSU's front, but statistically, they'd be any better than LSU. And so if it starts where they cannot run the football, they're going to get pressure on Ty Simpson.
What do you make of all these schools? You've got 12 jobs open now. There are going to be a bunch more. I think 7 or 8 of them are Power 4 jobs. I read something from some guy at Penn State said that they're not going to settle for anything less than a championship than a coach who has proven he can win championships. Who are those guys?
Yeah, good question. These guys are in the search seat, the ADs or whoever it is, they want to make these statements. Somebody needs to save them and see what they say in about 18 months. And I'm not trying to be negative toward anybody that's saying them, but they say what you got to say. Okay. I mean, what do you want to say? We're probably not going to find the best coach that we're looking for this year because it's all a big bowl of spaghetti right now. We'll probably end up having to take our third choice, but that's okay. We got enough money to get out of it one day. But I mean, they all gonna say the same basic things at this point in the search. We got our number one guy. Yeah, we had talked to some other people, but this is the guy we wanted all along.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same old with everybody in every situation. It's just gotten to where the media, you got to try to win the media. And then 2 years later, you're like, hell, I wish we'd just won some games.
Well, I wondered how long it would take Scott Woodward, former AD at LSU and A&M. Giving somebody a $70+ million buyout at one place and a $54 million buyout at another place, at some point that's going to fall apart.
But I read something the other day I didn't even know because I don't keep up with this stuff much. He's not the one that extended Jimbo. The dude that came in behind him gave him 4 more years. So if you gave him that initial contract, maybe it wouldn't have been worth but about 40 million, which is still big money, but 40 million, which is not crazy in these days and times. But the guy behind him extended him 4 years.
The AD that came behind him, who's now at Ohio State, his explanation for that contract, for the extension, was that the precedent had already been set. So he has a great year. We were going to extend him, and that the base of the contract was already negotiated. He said we just extended it. So he says his explanation is that he wasn't really responsible for it.
But there's something in the contract about X number of wins. This is automatically extended, or
no? He gave him the AD gave him the extension, but his argument was that okay, the parameters of the contract were the same. So there was the buyout dollars were fully guaranteed, and that just extended it X number of years. So he was basically following the parameters that Woodward had negotiated. So, and the other thing that the other
still wrong.
Oh, of course. And then
like the damn president of the United States saying, well, this guy before me, he's the one that said we don't need to be over here fighting. So I decided to pull troops out.
It's going to be an interesting finish. What about Ole Miss? I mean,
I just think if they keep playing well and don't beat themselves, they've got the easiest track, in my opinion.
I mean,
I just don't have confidence in Mississippi State right now. I mean, you can't give up the kind of points and yards they are. And in Florida, it could have just been one of those days. But like I hate to repeat myself, when you go up to Kentucky and you don't really come to play, it may be that they might have already shut it down. Some of those kids may already have distractions and tampering and whatever else. You just don't have the glue in the locker room. I don't know. Those situations are not easy. I've been in one of them, and it was just not easy. You don't even want to go to work every day.
Yeah, I
just think Ole Miss is in the driver's seat right now. Could be Georgia and Ole Miss.
Could be. I mean, you look here now at they got Florida, they got at Mississippi State. Now you never know how the Cowbells are going to be that last weekend. But I mean, Ole Miss, they could be sitting here at 11-1.
Well, they rang them a lot. They rang them a lot over when Georgia was playing. After 41 points, the damn arms were a little bit tired.
Yeah, I mean,
they might need to try throwing them Cowbells out there on the field, in the offensive backfield. So maybe they'll trip over one.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, does South Carolina have a chance against A&M? I mean, the game's in.
They're dangerous, Ronnie. I don't think they can play with A&M because A&M's playing so physical and so consistent right now. The one matchup that I think is going to end up being the problem, they've got a physical offensive line, and they love to, once they get that thing cranked up now, I mean, they will hammer you. The way they did Florida coming off that defensive performance they had down at LSU. But they went over to A&M, man, and it was a meat grinder. So I just don't think South Carolina can stop their running game. But if they put the ball on the ground a couple of times or something else happens where they get them off the field, they're dangerous. And A&M is an overrated defense. I think they've gotten better lately. It looks to me like he may be calling the defenses now. And he's really – huh?
I wondered that.
But it just – and that's just – I don't think I've seen anything written on that, but just kind of watching him, he's got that plan right there in front of him during the defensive thing, and he's talking a lot. And usually if you're not calling it, you're just glancing at it, and you're not even on the phone. So I think he might be, and there's been a noticeable difference the last 2 games, 3 games maybe. Early in the year, that was their issue. They weren't a good, consistent defense. So just looking at it the thing spread almost 17 points. And I think if you're just really honest about it, they don't have a real good chance. But when you've got Sellers and you've got 2 of those other kids they've got, you always got a chance to give people a problem, be a headache. But I don't think they can upset A&M over there.
And A&M ends up obviously with Texas at the end. But I mean, Texas' schedule now, you got at Georgia, Arkansas at home, A&M at home. I mean, that's not, I would be surprised to see them in the championship game based on that.
They've already got 1 loss too. And,
yeah, they already got 1.
I just think now A&M, I remember talking about it last year. They got some kind of problem that mentally. When they play Texas, they almost get too freaking excited and intense, and they don't play their best. Mm-hmm. Now, will they fix that? Will they play great? Got to go on the road, but I don't think they're going to beat Georgia at Georgia.
I don't.
First of all, and the way it all matches up, I think if Georgia can slow them down a little bit. And Texas has had some offensive days where they just very average, like at Kentucky. So I don't think it's going to beat Georgia. I think they got a better shot of beating Texas A&M at home than they do Georgia on the road.
I would agree.
I don't expect them to make it through this 3-game stretch without a loss.
Yeah, the interesting one to me is Alabama. I mean, if Alabama gets past Oklahoma this weekend, they're basically. I mean, you're sitting there with you could lose to Auburn and still be 7-1 in the conference.
Yeah.
Same with A&M. I mean, if you split these last 2 with A&M, and it's going to be, Ole Miss and Georgia. I mean, it's going to be a photo finish. Should be a great finish in the conference.
I think this week though is really critical because Alabama, Oklahoma, Georgia, Texas, and then Texas at Georgia. That's one or the other. And Texas A&M, I don't think they can get touched the next 2 weeks. South Carolina might. And then Ole Miss has got Florida, who seems like they've just not playing right now. Yeah. And then an open date. Ole Miss has got the easiest track to me. Georgia's got a pretty tough track. The Georgia Tech game, of course, once they play Texas, if they beat Texas, they just got to sit there and watch because their last 2 games are not SEC games.
Right.
Now, I don't think it could hurt them too much in the national picture if they lose Georgia Tech. But if they beat Texas, because they'll be sitting there probably in the driver's seat to go to the SEC game. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's still 6 or 8 matchups in the next 3 weeks that will determine what's happening.
Before we go, the names floating around for the Auburn job, I want to, like for the listeners to get your thoughts on these guys. John Summerall.
Some of these guys I'm not going to know very well. I remember Summerall as a player more than anything, but I'm not familiar with them, and I haven't followed it all that closely. As far as everybody says, got to be a good fit, and maybe the Kelly thing is a good example that it does. I don't know, but he's from the South, and might be from Alabama, is he?
He's went to school in Huntsville at Grissom.
So. Yeah, and played at SEC at Kentucky. And, he's done a heck of a job, too. And I tell you what, they had a big game the other day against Memphis, I think it was. Both coaches were all in this head coach rumor mill. Summerall handled his distractions pretty doggone well. They were focused and ready to play. The other guy maybe lost a little bit of focus.
Eli Drinkwitz.
To me, he'd be one of the best fits, one of the best hires. He's been a head football coach at 2 different locations and 2 different levels, you might say. And he's been in the conference, and he's been at Auburn, hasn't he?
He has.
So he makes too much sense to me.
Kenny Dillingham, same thing. He's been at Auburn for a year.
Yeah, same thing. And I don't know him very well, but I know he's got a little Auburn background, and I don't know where's he from. He
went to school. He's an Arizona State alum, and he, I think he loved his time at Auburn. He didn't love his time with Malzahn, kind of like you, I think. Kenny. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know as much about him. I thought the job he did last year was just phenomenal.
Yeah,
and he's done good this year. They did I think they've lost 3.
Yeah, but they've had some injuries too. The quarterback got hurt.
They got out of the picture kind of early, but he's still done a really good job. But he would make a lot of sense to me. I'm not as familiar with him or not.
I believe
I've never worked with Eli, but we used to phone a lot. We used to talk a lot on the phone, asking questions about opponents and that kind of thing. And I've got the closest friend in coaching worked for him at Appalachian in Missouri, and he really thought a lot of them too. But either one of those, I don't know how you could go wrong.
I mean, Kenny Dillingham is only 35 years old. I'm not sure how old Eli is, but I think he's in his early 40s, maybe.
Yeah, a little older, I think.
Jeff Brom.
That would that'd be a great hire.
He's done a great job.
Yep.
And DJ Durkin.
I think it's going to be hard to make that transition. He's been a head coach before. There was controversy when he was up at Maryland. I don't think he was directly in it, but you remember they had something with the off-season program.
A kid died.
But he has been a head football coach before. I think he's done a great job with the defense in probably a tough situation there. Trying to keep the defense playing a high level when you got so much other distractions and things. But to me right now, it would make more sense for Auburn to go outside.
Rhett Lashley.
I think Rhett would make a lot of sense. He really, they got to say the right things, until the door is going to be unlocked. But I don't think he's leaving down there. That's just my gut feeling with the way he described the situation and how he made his decision to sign that deal. And I was told at one point in time when they first gave it to him, they announced it, but it wasn't signed. Mm-hmm. But I've heard since then he has signed it and is committed to stay. And I mean, anybody can pay out your contract if they want to hire you. But I don't think he's going anywhere.
I'm not sure that I think he'd be a great hire. But that being said, there would certainly be some pushback because he worked for Malzahn. Although I think Rhett takes Gus's run game and actually puts a competent passing game with it and ends up being pretty good. But there would be pushback because of the Malzahn.
You got to track Gus's track when he didn't have Rhett on his staff.
That's right.
As head coach. And when I watch the offense, it's not exactly the same.
No,
it has some of the element of the running plays, but the biggest thing about it, if you want to run the complete package of Gus's running game, the motions and the shifts and some of the things have to be practiced for meticulous reasons. And I mean, he'll run a power play, but it will be so meticulous where a guy in motion ends up and how he can get an angle on a block and that kind of thing. I mean, it's great stuff, but it's just like running the wishbone. If you're going to be really good at it, it takes about 90% of your practice day. And then you take that other 10% and you go over and work on pocket protection and quarterbacks taking 5-step drops and reading routes and coverages and trying to go through a progression and throw it to the right guy, you can't do it.
No.
And that's why the pros, when you look at the pros running games, they don't run really complicated running games. They run a bunch of stuff, motions and shifts and formations, and they run like 3 different running plays. They ain't got time. I mean, their focus is going into protecting the quarterback who's getting paid $20 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then those 2 outside edge rushers, how are we going to keep them managed? And that's just what pro ball's become. The guy that's throwing the ball, the guys that can get to the guy throwing the ball, the guys that can catch the ball, and the guys that are covering the guys that can catch the ball. That's who's getting all the damn money.
That's right.
Everybody else is just working for a living, But his offense was not like that. And so when you got in a situation where somebody could physically stop that running game, you had a problem. There was no balance.
The other name that's been floating around is Brent Key. And for those listening, I mean, Auburn, we've talked about this before. Auburn's been the poster child for dysfunction for 30 years. And now all of a sudden, you've got a board of trustees, you got a president, you got an AD, and they're all on the same page. Then you look at Florida, you have no president, and the athletic director is probably not going to be the athletic director for the coach that whoever the coach is that's hired. The AD he's working for will probably not be the same here within the next year, whenever this new president hired. And then at LSU, I mean, that whole thing with the governor, I mean, it doesn't look real. It doesn't. I would have to think you fire a guy who's won, almost 10 games a year and paying $54 million not to coach, and then you go work for the governor. I'm not sure that's a real good situation.
No, I think both of them. You mentioned this thing. One part about the Florida thing I didn't know, but it's just I got caught in that mess at Southern Miss. Very similar. By the time we played our first game, the athletic director nor the president that hired me were there anymore. And so you just don't know what you're dealing with. But if there's not a good alignment and, in those critical positions, the board, the president, the AD, if you're a guy who can pick and choose where to go, you'd be smart not to get in those situations right now. Well, looks like a nice shiny object right now, but in 3 or 4 years, the wrong guy comes in the wrong position, and it just never does get on track. And and then the last thing, I want to know how much NIL money they got. I was slow to come to the party, but I've gotten to the point. Look, this thing isn't going back to the station, and I mean, hell, the biggest factor that's going to give a head coach a chance to be successful. How much money I got to pay my players.
And if you look, and that's the other thing I was going to bring up, Auburn has a lot of money invested in the roster right now. And based on the Baylor deal to move the next year's Baylor game from Jordan-Hare Stadium to Atlanta, there's NIL money built in that. The new Nike deal that Auburn signed, there's NIL money built in that. Auburn's going to have around $30 million in NIL to spend on the roster next year. Now, you take that, you add it with alignment, you take it with a new facility, and then you look at, Auburn's not fishing out of the same pond as Penn State. Anybody that wants to go to, anybody at Penn State wants to hire, Auburn probably not hiring them, and vice versa.
Right.
But, but you're fishing in the same pond as LSU and Florida maybe, but, typically those jobs, would you'd say they may be a notch ahead of Auburn. I'm not sure that's the case this year.
Well, I think one of the biggest factors in all this is the calendar. And I don't understand why they keep targeting these coaches who are likely to be in the playoffs, trying to buy them away from their head coaching job somewhere else. I'd try to find somebody that's available, that's a good football coach. And I said this the last time we were on here, at least I think I did, but you look at the 3 of the best coaches that won all the national championships over the last 15 years. They weren't head coaches before they got the job where they're winning these championships. Kirby and Dabo and Day up there at Ohio State. None of them were head coaches when they were hired from some other place. And you don't have to go get a head coach and pay out his contract and whatever else to get a good coach.
And as much as anything else, people talk about fit and downplay it. I think fit's important. I mean, I think it's more. I've come around to that way of thinking. I just think that Brian Harsin didn't fit at Auburn. Those
Ronnie, I think it's more important with the environment of the fan base and the community than it is recruiting area.
I agree.
Recruiting area is not really that important anymore because of the portal. You're getting half your team out of the portal and half your team out of the high schools. And a lot of these kids you're recruiting now, they're first generation college. Mm-hmm. They're not dyed in the wool SEC fans who grew up dreaming of going to play for one of their SEC teams. Most of them looking for the most money and the most successful program and the scheme, that'll fit in where they think they can be successful. Yep. So I just think geographical fit, I don't get into that. But a misfit, not fit with the overall culture of a school, I think you're exactly right. That's possible. And when you got a bad fit, it just starts leading to chaos and disruptions.
Well, and you got to have somebody that embraces the place and embrace. Brian Harsin, as an example, never embraced Auburn. Never really didn't really care to work hard. Didn't really care about much anything. I don't think. Those things don't work. You talk about Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin probably a great fit at Florida. I think he'd be a terrific fit at Florida. Problem is he may be coaching until mid-January.
Right.
But
that's right. And in addition to that, you got the portal to deal with, the recruiting signing date. One of them's in early December or mid-December. The other one's 1st of January, isn't it? Early January now, the portal.
Portal.
They move it. That 1 week. That 1 week thing goes in effect this year, right?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah, you go into the playoffs, you got all that to deal with. I don't know. I think it's going to be. I think they need to look at their pool of coaches, and maybe quit trying to go get somebody else's wife, and like the NFL. They just swap them around every 5 years.
Cohen said that his plan is he would like to name a coach as soon after the Iron Bowl as possible. So, depending on who's playing when. If you're hiring John Summerall and he's in the championship game for the conference, then you probably name a week later. But I think Auburn wants to get it done pretty quickly. I've heard Lincoln Riley's name floating around in Florida. You can hear anything this time of year, but it's going to be a wild cycle.
Yep. If I would, I don't know. I think that's a perfect match. Southern Cal and Lincoln Riley.
Both of them soft.
Well, they're just kind of that philosophy,
Well, I know you'd like to go out there. I know you'd like I know you'd like to go out there and work.
Well, I don't know. They'd have to buy me a home and it has to be about within a mile of that campus.
Oh, well, it's good to be with you again.
Enjoyed it, man.